changed that into a web apps and e-commerce group just to reflect the fact that Web 2.0 is now commercialized in the form of more richer apps and e-commerce, multi-channel e-commerce applications as well. So our continuing schedule going forward will be Wednesdays, probably second Wednesday of alternate months. Like, for example, today is the second Wednesday of November, and the next event we are holding will probably be in mid-January or first week of February. And then the event format will be two formats. We'll either have panel discussions or speaker presentations, which will be individual speakers. We're also planning to have a social commerce conference, which will be either spring, summer, or fall of next year, so sometime next year. This is our prospective topic list. So we've come up with a few topics which we believe are going to be interesting. But if you have any ideas, please talk to either one of the chairs and express your interest about speakers or topics. So as I mentioned, we have a new leadership team. I'm going to be the chair going forward, and I have Mihoko, Benjamin, Venki, and Chris. Chris is going to be doing the blog. Venki is not with us today, unfortunately. He's still alive. But I'll let the assistant chairs introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Mihoko Ward, and I have background in finance, but I have keen interest in technology, especially in the web. So I'm very happy to be part of this group. I'll be organizing March event with Ritu, so I'd love to know what everybody is interested in. We can get the right event. So come and talk, say hi, and please share your ideas. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Benjamin. I manage the e-commerce channel for 10 brands, and we do everything from the usability to warehouse integration and going through e-commerce platforms. I'm going to organize with Ritu next year the local services, coupons, offering engine event. So if you're interested in this event, please join us. And if you have any ideas or things that you'd like to share, speakers to propose, please do. We're going to focus on business models. So, thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris. I work at Cisco as a business development manager. I work in the Smart Analytics group, and I specialize in predictive analytics. And I'm going to be blogging for this special interest group.
And just a couple of things about me. So I have several years of experience both as a technologist, also in finance, as an advisor to technology companies, mostly emerging technology and mid-market technology companies. So I'm more than happy to talk with anyone if they're interested. And I can be contacted either at the websig at svforum.org or my email address, which you might have seen in some of the emails. So our topic for today is slicing, dicing, and enticing e-commerce users. Thanks for being here. Our panel members are Ankur from Bloomberg Capital, Vijay Chatur from Martado, a Facebook application, Jai Rawat, CEO of Shops Socially, Eric Botter, CTO of Slice, and Rob Danielson, Vice President of Business Development at Shop Socially. I'll briefly introduce Vijay and Eric. So Vijay, as I mentioned, is the CTO of Martado. Previously, he was also the product manager of Cosmix, which was acquired by Walmart, and he's also worked at McKinsey as a management consultant as well. He has an MBA from Harvard Business School and BTech from Indian Institute of Technology. And Eric Eric is a CTO of Slice and has a long and distinguished entrepreneurial and technology career. I look forward to having you as well on the panel, Eric. Eric has an engineering management degree from Stanford University.
I'll introduce Mr. Anka Jain. Mr. Jain earned his bachelor's degree in computer science and engineering from Indian Institute of Technology in Delhi, master's in computer science from UCLA, and MBA from Wharton. In addition to his degrees, he is also co-inventor for 5 technology patents. He has over 12 years of experience as an investor, strategy consultant, and operational executive. Prior to joining Bloomberg, he did strategy consulting for Accenture, specializing in IT strategy. Mr. Jain worked at many small and large technology companies, including Software Networks, where when it was acquired by Digital Island in 2000, and Andarino System when it was acquired by Cisco in 2004. Outside of his work, he is a keen practitioner of yoga and meditation. And I'm sorry, I didn't mention your title. He is a vice president at the Bloomberg Capital.
So Bawa here. He's a co-founder and CEO of Shop Socially. Shop Socially has created a consumer-to-consumer word-of-mouth marketing channel for online retailers via social sharing. Shop Socially has over 500 customers and has won several awards. Jay is a serial entrepreneur with over 18 years of experience. He started his first company, Obongo, in 1999, which was acquired by AOL. At AOL, Jay led the e-commerce and mobile strategy. Jay co-founded 2 other successful companies before starting Shop Socially. Jay is an advisor and a mentor to several startups. Is involved with several non-profit and holds 14 patents, right? 14.
I'd like to introduce Rob Danielson. He's VP of Business Development at Shop Socially. He has spent the last 13 years working in Silicon Valley, addressing the business development and sales needs of internet, retail, direct marketing, and web technology B2B and B2C companies. These companies include Incentive Networks, eBay Shopping, Web Loyalty, and eCentive. Previously, he worked with Arthur Andersen. Additionally, he was responsible for sales and marketing for Neutron Products Company, and he has a BS in finance from Miami University.
Thanks, guys. So this is our schedule for today. So we'll have a quick panel discussion for around 40 minutes, followed by a panel presentations by the speakers for around 50 minutes, and then Q&A. And you can talk with the speakers following that, or you can also announce any job opportunities that you might have, or if you're looking for something. Our next SIG meeting has already been announced, so that will happen either in mid-January or mid-February. I'd like to thank our facility sponsor, DLA Piper, and our sponsors, SAP, Hewlett-Packard, and Nokia for sponsoring our SIG. So with that, I'd like to kick off our panel discussion for today. So I guess the first question I have is for Ankur. Ankur, so we've had keyword-based commerce for quite some time, which really dominated the internet commerce. And now we have a number of brand-based commerce applications coming up. So can you talk a little bit about, start by talking a little bit about what are the emerging trends and technologies, and if you could all talk about that, emerging companies or emerging trends and technologies that you see in this area. You can actually pull it out.
So the way I like to think of e-commerce is to divide it into 4 stages. Right? There's stage 1, which is, and in each of those stages you're doing slicing, dicing, and enticing. So the stage 1 is, who are you really targeting? So if you're a broad-based retailer selling everything, that's one kind of model. You're talking by vertical, that's another. If you're talking by behavior, like a subscription, that's another. Obviously in that category there is innovation, and we see that periodically, but nothing dramatically new, obviously, conceptually. The next stage is, once you've identified that, how do you actually get these users? There's so many companies and so many, that has been an area of action for ever since the birth of e-commerce and continues to be. So you would use all your social information today to understand the behaviors and target the right kind of customers. You would use your e-commerce information to target the right kind of customers. You would use your mobile and location information. So all these are trends, all these are companies are attacking each of these markets. Some are combining them. There is no one right way of doing things, and this will continue evolving so there will continue to be micro trends here. Then the third stage is, once you've got these target customers on your e-commerce site, now how do you slice and dice and entice, how do you deliver a personal experience there? We've obviously seen things like recommendation engines, but there's a lot more that I think we've barely scratched the surface there in terms of, so I would say that's an emerging trend. And fourth is, once they are a customer, then delivering a very targeted service to them. And I think we haven't seen much in that segment yet, and I think that's probably something for the future. So I would identify this second and third buckets as sort of the most dynamic in terms of trends.
Actually, I would say that after you have converted a visitor into a shopper, the next thing that you want to do is to figure out how can you convert that buyer into a brand ambassador, right? So that this person is now talking and recommending your products to their friends, right? Don't stop at just converting a visitor to your site into a shopper. But having said that, the way I look at some of the changes that are happening in the industry now is, clearly Google has dominated the traffic going to e-commerce site for a number of years, and that was very much intent-based. When I go to Google and I search for something, I'm declaring that I'm looking for a camera or I'm looking for a new pair of shoes, etc. And then I see a bunch of ads and a bunch of results, and that is how the retailers have been driving traffic to their site. And similarly, all the display ads and other mechanisms that you see, that is all to figure out who is currently in the market to buy something new. Let me go and target them. You go to Zappos, look at a pair of shoes, and suddenly those pair of shoes start following you across the web. You start seeing the ads for the same shoes all over the place, because Zappos figured out that you're looking for a new pair of shoes. Let me show shoes ads to you. The new trend that is emerging, especially with the social media channels, is based on discovery. I may not necessarily be looking to buy a new book or a new CD or a new handbag or what have you, but when I see that a friend of mine has bought something and that person shares it with me, I may end up buying the same thing just based on impulse. Not necessarily because I was looking to buy that, but because I discovered some new and exciting. Same thing with Groupon. Groupon is pushing deals to you not because they are targeting you, they are just pushing random deals to you, and you end up buying them not necessarily because you're looking to buy them or in the market to buy that, another massage or whatever, but you discovered a new deal and you end up buying it. So I think there is a big shift that is happening right now where whereas the earlier web was built around content, I think the new web is now being built around people, and gradually you will see that the impact of what people are buying is going to start shifting away from ads to what their friends are doing.
So Jay, do you think people are going to buy more, spend more on consumption going forward, or are they just replacing what they bought in different areas before? Do you know?
That just depends on how much money people have, I guess. At the end of the day, that's a hard question to answer. Will people end up spending a little bit more? Probably they will, because I think there is a lot of impulse buy that is being enabled through some of these mechanisms. But I think at the end of the day, I guess there are a lot of other macroeconomic factors that play into it. I don't think that just that targeting and deal discoveries alone will increase the consumer spend.
I guess just to kind of tag on what Jay said and Ankur said, from my perspective, and I work with Jay, so a lot of what he said I agree with, and we're trying to build out a platform that addresses those needs on the social perspective. But Chris and I were chatting briefly earlier, and he was talking about Cisco a little bit, and we talked about the amount of data that the social channel is throwing off, and we can look back, over the last 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, and see how Google has grown and how when Yahoo is growing tremendously and all the different channels there online and the data they amassed. And now we're seeing the same thing in social. So all the things, Ankur said, we haven't quite started using all that data yet effectively, but there's more and more businesses and more ideas that are coming out there, and I think that we're going to see quite a bit of that in the next 3-4 years. It's just, it's amazing the data that we look at, what people are willing to share, the intent, whether they like something, whether they own something, whether they bought something. All these things are key metrics that can be utilized to potentially influence other decisions moving forward. So I think there'll be a lot of new things with the data going forward.
I think you're right in terms of data. I think the key is how do you get data with and still protect people's privacy. And so I think whoever figures out how to crack that code and where consumers are comfortable sharing their data because they actually get something from sharing their data. Being able to use more specific data about consumers' purchase behavior and purchase patterns and still protect their privacy is, I think, a key area that I think has a lot of opportunity.
Cool. Yeah, I think obviously tagging on to Jay in that the way Ritu articulated the question, e-commerce is moving away from keyword based, and I think where that leads to is discovery, which is what Jay was articulating. Specifically on discovery, we at Murtado have been focused on a few trends that I would want to talk about. 3 of them I think come to my mind. So the first one is what we call enabling commerce through content, and we did this recently through a launch of what we call Murtado TV. And what Murtado TV does is, as a user comes to our site, we don't try to just sell them an item. We don't just try to sell them a deal. Instead, we create an experience for them where they might be watching, let's say, Paula Dean's favorite recipe for pot roast, and after watching that on a video on Murtado TV, they say, hey, that's interesting, and maybe I should buy like a crock pot. And we feature like a bunch of crock pots which are relevant, and we enable discovery in that form. So that's sort of one, sort of using content to drive commerce. The second trend we have sort of noticed is that as the web has kind of moved from sort of the old hyperlinked web into apps, and the numbers are kind of staggering, right? So I think if you look at the total amount of time people have spent on the internet within apps, on the iPhone and the iPad and places like that, versus the time spent on browsers across PCs and across all devices, the time spent on apps has actually outpaced the total time spent on the browser across so many sites. Now, when you look at something like that and you look at sort of the move away from a hyperlinked web into experiences that are sort of more curated, and I think I'll draw a similar analogy for something like the Facebook stream. Obviously, people are clicking out of the Facebook stream often, but most of the consumption is happening in the stream. So the question in front of us, or the trend that we are noticing, is how do you enable commerce in these different places which are not in the hyperlinked web? And one of the things we have sort of been focused on is what we call embedded shopping. And the idea behind embedded shopping, and I'll show you guys a demo later on, is that you could be playing a game on Facebook, or you could be in a mobile app, or you could be in a Facebook stream, and you could complete a transaction in there. So that's the second sort of trend we have been very focused on. And I think the third trend, which kind of goes to the point of slicing and dicing, is that we've felt, I think, going back again to Jay's point, is that you obviously have a consumer buy something from you, but they're also now becoming a brand ambassador and starting to share items with other people. And in that model, our analytics have to be built as has to have a very strong notion of a user and not a visit. And just to illustrate what that means, when you think of the user as a unit in analytics, you basically say, hey, this person came in, bought like a few things in their first visit, right? Maybe they bought $50 worth of items. But they have future visits. Your goal is to keep them coming back and buying more from you. So you track sort of all the repeat purchases. But then you also start tracking who did they friend, like who did they bring onto the site and what purchases did they make. And when you add up all of that into this first interaction with the user, you start getting a very different picture of sort of your marketing channels. And you start seeing that, marketing channels which you ascribed like a certain dollar value to, you said, hey, these marketing channels brought me a customer who bought $50 worth of stuff. Suddenly when you add up sort of the social part of it and the virality and the repeats, it starts looking like the same channel and brought in a customer worth like $200 worth of stuff. Right, so we've built, I think, in terms of slicing and dicing, we'd love to talk more about it as we go on this discussion. Built in-house analytics, which kind of supports that kind of a view of the user, and that's the trend we are seeing as well. I think we feel, analytics in the e-commerce world will change to social commerce analytics.
Thanks, Vijay. Eric, so the economy is not very good, but the malls are full and all the social sites are doing pretty well. And you're also planning to entice users further based on the purchase decisions they've already made. Among our audience, I'm sure there are a number of entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. So while making a decision to do something like Slice, what were the other things that you considered doing to entice them, or just Slice just popped out, or what kind of auxiliary apps or auxiliary technologies do you think people should look at in putting together, say, a new enticing app?
Sure. Well, I mean, we all know that e-commerce is growing. Online purchases are growing faster than offline purchases. And so while the economy is not doing that great, online retail is growing at 10 or more % per year, and according to Forrester is going to continue on that trend. So clearly it's a robust area. I think data mining, and if you take, for example, what Groupon and Living Social do, they push out daily deals, and they push out the same daily deal to everybody. But actually, that's not really very efficient. It's creating a great business for Groupon and a great business for Living Social. But longer term, I think there's an opportunity to be much more effective than that. If Groupon or Living Social or these other daily deal sites had information about preferences, and the angle we're taking at Slice is information about your previous purchases. Given that a lot of research in universities recently are suggesting that the best predictor of what someone will buy in the future is what that person has bought in the past. less about demographics, less about whether this person's in a certain age range, much more correlated to what are this person's interests and what has this person shown based on specific purchases in the past is his or her interest. And I think getting that information and being able to use it to potentially target offers to that person, which would be very attractive to that person and also very attractive for the merchant who's willing to create such an offer, because that merchant has knowledge of who they're targeting that offer to. So I think there's a lot of opportunity in the area of getting greater fidelity of data and then being able to act on that. I think it can benefit significantly consumers, because I think they can get deals that they never could have gotten before. And it can also very much benefit merchants, because it allows merchants to be willing to invest in extraordinary deals for specific individuals if they have knowledge that this will be interesting to those individuals. So I think there's an opportunity to do that both in terms of acquiring new customers as well as in the retailer's interest in making sure that they maintain loyal customers.
Sure. Thanks, Eric. Rob, so you do business development, and I'm sure you do a fine job, and I was just curious. What is it that, how do you complement kind of the marketing aspect with what you do with alliances or business development, and how do you see that aspect of Groupon, as it was just mentioned, which is just much more of an in-person connection with merchants versus curating deals online or curating them automatically? Or do you see that at all as important?
Well, Groupon, the one thing, I guess it ties in a little bit. I did want to say to what Eric was mentioning. Groupon is past that chasm where they've gotten extremely popular, just went public, and all this. But the challenge still remains that mostly they're an offline phenomenon. They're media and they're reaching people online, but they're driving people to local merchants and the like. And being able to, again, kind of leveraging a lot of what we've been talking about here, but leveraging that data and being able to now use the technology that, for the most part, the online folks, the online companies have developed, so that now you get a single view of a customer, whether their preference is to buy online or their preference is to buy offline. You can direct them or advise them or understand those preferences at whatever means they want to shop, whether it's I'm walking into Home Depot or I'm on HomeDepot.com. And from a business development point of view, I think business development is one of those areas that is oftentimes, I think, confusing. It's a glorified sales job to many degrees. True biz dev, I've been in situations where deals take 2 years, and it's a very complex sales environment. But I think what we find ourselves in today, and comparing the online biz dev efforts with the more of the Groupon, it's not that dissimilar. I mean, you're reaching out to some of the same folks, and the benefits have to still be there, obviously, on both sides. Again, I think we'll see what happens in the Groupon world, but I think the next wave will be a migration of taking that data and having the Groupon and the offline and the online kind of married up together. Be much more successful venture, I think.
Thanks. Jay, quick question for you. So one of the things that PayPal is looking to do, for example, from a payment screen, is to allow people to scan barcodes and make a purchase in a store. So are people still going to be hanging out in stores despite all this technology? And that's their number one priority beyond social commerce?
I think offline stores will always have a place. I think we are I think we all got more friends on Facebook than we can name, and we, increasingly socializing with our friends in an online world. But I think the statistics also show that that is increasing the offline social behavior as well, right? And it's the same thing as saying, when people can watch movies on Netflix and streaming video, at their home, will they still go to the theaters to watch movie? And I think both the things will coexist. And in fact, one thing drives the other. We see a lot of times that when we create this whole social referral channel for the retailers, oftentimes the friends would then end up going to the offline store to buy something as opposed to going back to the online store, right? And a lot of retailers are in fact are focusing on trying to figure out how can they use the online traffic to drive traffic into the offline stores as well. So I see these as complementary. Online purchases are growing, and I think to some extent there are certain goods that don't require you to experience them in the store, or you don't necessarily need to go with the friends to hang out. If I just need to buy toothpaste or shaving blades or something like that, I just order them from Amazon. I got an Amazon Prime service, and that's the end of it. So I've stopped going to store for those kinds of things, right? But I think there are certain types of experiences. If you're buying, if you're going to buy clothes, for example, people would still want to go into the offline store and with their friends or with their family and still experience that. So the behaviors are changing. I don't think the offline stores will go away though.
Thanks. Do you have something to add, Ankur?
So, I think the dynamics of what makes a good offline business, they will also change in response to this. A good example is the book, we've seen Borders. So the online does impact offline, but the analogy is just because you have video games, does that mean people will stop playing sports? I think both exist, but the kind of sports people play potentially changes. The same with offline. The mix of what's a specialized retailer versus what's a generalized retailer, there'll be shifts in that. There'll be shifts in density. Today maybe a store is every 10 miles, maybe they go every 30 miles, depending on sector. But I think both coexist, but there's innovation in both because of online changes.
Sure, thanks. So Vijay, the top categories that I found online in online commerce are computers and software, electronics, and apparel. Previously, you worked on cosmetics, which started out in healthcare and then it expanded in other areas. But I was intrigued that your site focuses very much on kitchen items, and I wanted to get a sense of, for our audience, of what led you to choose not computers, not electronics, and not whatever was the third one, but something else.
So I think it sort of also ties back in with the previous point where we were trying to define what makes a great sort of offline business and will all business transfer offline. So one good way of sort of articulating what I think Jay and Ankur were trying to do was, there are products which are very well spec'd, and the consumer has a clear spec in mind, right? I think toothpaste probably follows that. Laptops to a large extent, I think you kind of know, I want like this 250 gigs or 500 gigs hard drive, I want these specs. A lot of things are very well spec'd, and I think those things, I think obviously they moved online because it was easy for consumers to sort of purchase those because they could, without touching and trying them on, they could say, hey, this thing in electronics, I know exactly what it is because they say it's a 250 gig, item, and that tells me exactly what it is. Whereas in other categories, maybe it's a little harder. Now, the experience we are trying to create online, our focus, like I mentioned, is on discovery-driven shopping, and we want to enable people to find cool items which are not very well spec'd, and there's a delight factor in kind of discovering them. We feel there is opportunity across multiple sectors, maybe not so much in electronics, but definitely in apparel. I think a lot of other companies are going after helping consumers discover like great fashion items. We pick home and kitchen. I think that's kind of been our focus. We feel that's a big area. We feel apparel is also a great big area, but we are pretty excited to be in the space we are in. I think there's a lot of opportunity to create, sort of bring offline stuff online in the area we are, in this home and kitchen sector, especially with items that are not very well sold.
Sure, thanks. No, I'm really excited about the home and kitchen sector coming online. That sounds great to me. Yes, Eric, I found your website really great because it allows me to know what I spent categorize all the different categories of items that I purchased across different credit cards or different mechanisms. So I know that you're going to entice people later once they have, but how do you entice them to your website? Is this a technology that you're developing or a consumer application? I guess that's my last question.
Good question. So basically what we do, I'm not sure if everybody knows, but what we do is we provide a website that will actually scan through all of your electronic receipts. First of all, you sign up voluntarily and tell us to do that. And then we'll scan through all your electronic receipts and we'll organize all them at the item level. So basically you'll have all of your item level purchase history information available to you, displayed in a very elegant way. It allows you to automatically track your packages if you're a really active online shopper. It allows you to, without typing in these long tracking numbers or cutting and pasting tracking numbers, it automatically will, in the mobile version, which is coming out soon, give you a push notification. So that's one thing. But the other thing it does is it just organizes all your stuff, and it presents it in a way that is very simple and easy to navigate and see, and gives you insights that you might not have thought about until you saw, things like how much you've spent on Amazon and on what items and so forth. The other thing that we do is we also monitor the prices that you paid for specific items, and we give you a price alert if one of your recent purchases has actually reduced in price, and if you're eligible for to get some money back where you are with many merchants. So those are the few things that we do. What we're trying to do is we're trying to basically extract information at the item level so that you can manage your stuff at the item level. And also, with this item level information, be able to present offers and deals, extraordinary offers and deals to you from merchants who are interested in targeting offers to people who have your purchase history profile. That can only be done with item level information. And we do this without sharing any personally identifiable information of the consumer. We basically know that user number 10,544 has this profile. And we know that Nike, for example, may be looking for individuals who've spent $2,000 on athletic shoes for the last 2 years, but have never bought a Nike shoe. Nike might be willing to give you an extraordinary offer in order to try to convert you or get you to try Nike shoes. But Nike's not going to be willing to broadcast an offer like that out to everybody. It's too non-specific. But if Nike knows that there are 50,000 people who have this profile that they want to target this offer to, that's really what we're trying to do with what we're creating here. So our challenge, of course, is how do we do this in a way that provides the consumer a very compelling experience, and also that the consumer is very assured, well assured, that none of their personally identifiable information is ever going to get delivered to anybody or shown to anybody. So we're trying to make friends and not enemies, and that is be something that's very valuable for a consumer and also valuable for merchants and retailers. So that's basically what we're trying to do.
Oh, I guess I have one last question just after the last question. So, have we missed anything? Is there any gap left in terms of, finding out more about the user? or helping them more with their purchase decision, or attracting them to a particular good or service?
I think we're just scratching the surface now. So in terms of, let's say, enticing the user, I can completely see sometime if you go to a retailer site, if you're in Boston and it's snowing, you see the products most relevant to you right now. Maybe you see old fur coats in front of the site. If you're coming, the same person is coming from Phoenix, maybe they see a different product set. If you're a young teenager who likes pink, maybe you see the site in pink. Maybe somebody else sees the site in green. Maybe you see, if you're a very analytical person, you see the product comparison table shown to you on the first page. If you are very visual, you just see the pictures. So I think we're just scratching the surface in terms of the enticing and having a very targeted consumer experience, and I think we'll continue seeing a lot of developments there.
Thanks.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think traditionally the marketeers have tried to segment the users into big buckets, right? Saying 15 to 25-year-old or what have you. And I think the world is now moving towards individual targeting almost. It's no longer the broad segmentation because that still leaves a lot of gaps. So gradually what we will see is people are just going to find out exactly what you as an individual, every person is different, right? Just because I'm in a certain age bracket, in a certain income bracket, doesn't mean that I'm the same person as everybody else in that bracket, right? And traditionally that's what the segmentation did. And as Ankur said, we're just scratching the surface. The level of personalization that you will be seeing in the coming years will be just a lot more personalized than what we have seen so far.
Anybody?
Sure, yeah. I think this is the first time I think consumers are contributing a lot of data about themselves sort of online in the last few years, and that has happened because of social networks. And consumer expectation is that retailers will respond whenever they share that kind of data, not in an obtrusive way, but in a smart and sensible way. But even at a simple level, for instance, you go and hit a like button on, let's say, a Zappos shoe. The Zappos site does not do anything to respond to you. They don't, even though they know that you have kind of told them, hey, I like this brand of shoe, I like this category of shoes, maybe the size and the type of shoe kind of tells them a lot about who you are. But as a site, they don't, to a large extent, they don't respond to you. So I think that's kind of the reason why, in response to Ritu's question, I kind of completely agree with Ankur. I think we're just scratching the surface. There's so much data that people are willing to share, but I think the commerce community has only just started to do a good job of aggregating that and sort of delivering value to the consumer using that data. And I think there's really a lot more that needs to be done.
Thanks, everyone. So please go ahead with your presentations. Do you want to start?
Sure.
Or actually, let's have Ankur.